The brass door handle was colder than I expected. I held it a second longer than I needed to, just long enough to remember my mother's hand when she used to grip the church pew during the hymns, rings clicking quietly against the wood. I was already late, but I didn't turn the knob right away. Something in my chest wasn't ready. The fall wind had chased me in from the parking lot, carrying that brittle leaf smell that always reminded me of funerals and football games. I took a breath, adjusted my tie, and stepped into the rehearsal hall. Voices, laughter, folding chairs being shuffled across the scuffed wood floor. I saw Pastor Greg near the altar, clipboard in hand, nodding toward the group gathered near the front. Groomsmen were joking, bridesmaids were fixing their shoes, and the florist was arguing with someone about candle height. And there she was, Kayla, my fiancée, standing under the arch where we were supposed to exchange vows the next day, wearing a soft blue dress that brushed the tops of her heels, smiling. And on her left hand, on the third finger, where my grandmother's engagement ring should have been, was my mother's. The gold band I'd kept in a felt box in the top drawer of my dresser for over a year. The one thing I hadn't been able to bring myself to pawn or pack away after the funeral. The one that still had lotion residue in the etching from when my mom used to twist it nervously in hospital waiting rooms. It was on Kayla's finger, and everyone around her was acting like it belonged there. I didn't move at first. Then I did something stupid. I laughed. Not loud, not bitter. Just that reflexive exhale you do when something misfires in your brain. No one noticed, or they pretended not to. "Hey, there he is," someone said. "Eric, my best man, clapping me on the back like this wasn't the moment the floor split under my feet." I don't remember what I said. Probably something like, "Hey," or "Sorry I'm late," but my eyes didn't leave that ring. Not when Kayla kissed me on the cheek. Not when she whispered something about rehearsal dinner reservations. Not when the photographer asked us to do a quick walkthrough to check lighting. Not even when she reached for my hand and that ring brushed against my skin like a needle. I couldn't focus on the instructions. I kept thinking, how did she get it? She'd never seen it. I never showed it to her. I didn't even know where the box was lately. It had been packed away with some of my mom's things after I moved in with Kayla last February. Or at least I thought it had. When we got to the part where we were supposed to stand facing each other, she smiled at me with that quiet, practiced grace she had when she was trying to keep things calm. But I wasn't calm. I said something like, "That ring, where did you get it?" Her expression faltered for half a second, just a flicker. Then she recovered. "Your sister gave it to me," she said softly. "She said it would mean a lot to you." I felt my stomach twist. "My sister?" "Yeah," she said, brushing a strand of hair from her face, trying to keep her voice down. "Nora said your mom would have wanted you to pass it on, that you were just still too close to it, emotionally." I stepped back. The pastor called for a 5-minute break. People started shifting again, but I didn't move. My sister and Kayla were across the room now, whispering to each other by the windows. I walked outside. I didn't say anything to anyone. I just let the cold air hit me in the chest and tried to piece together what the hell was happening. My mother's ring, her wedding ring, was not some heirloom we passed down lightly. It had nothing to do with my grandmother or any family tradition. It had been my dad's last gift to her before he died, right before the surgery that didn't work. She wore it every day until the cancer took her. Even when she got too thin for her other jewelry, she kept that one on. And now it was on Kayla's finger, like it was just a placeholder. I pulled out my phone, opened my messages, scrolled to Nora's name, typed, "Did you give Kayla mom's ring?" No response. I called her, straight to voicemail. I didn't go back inside. Instead, I drove to Nora's place. But she wasn't home. Her roommate said she'd left earlier that morning with an overnight bag and mentioned something about helping Kayla with last-minute stuff. I sat in my car outside for 20 minutes, just staring at the dashboard, while the battery warning flashed because I hadn't turned the ignition. When I finally got home, our apartment smelled like burnt coffee and wedding samples, fabric swatches, candle jars, a half-eaten granola bar. I stood in the bedroom, opened the drawer where I'd last seen the felt box. Gone. Just an old receipt and a single dried flower stem from my mom's memorial. That night, Kayla texted me 3 times from the rehearsal dinner. Said she hoped I was okay, that Nora told her I'd just been overwhelmed, that she understood how hard it was, emotionally, to let go of certain things. I didn't respond. I sat on the floor of the closet with my back against the wall and a shoebox full of condolence cards in my lap. Every single one had my mom's handwriting still visible, faint imprints on the envelopes, where she'd labeled them after reading. She'd always been careful like that, never wanted anyone to feel forgotten. And yet here I was, forgotten or bypassed or rewritten somehow by the 2 women I should have been able to trust most. The worst part? I still didn't know why. The apartment was too quiet the next morning. Kayla had stayed at her maid of honor's place after the rehearsal dinner, some last-minute tradition or excuse to keep the bride and groom apart before the big day. I sat at the kitchen table, watching the steam curl off my coffee, untouched. My phone buzzed 4 times in 20 minutes. Her, then Nora, then Eric, then Nora again. I didn't reply. The ring haunted me. That dull gold band had never meant sparkle or display. It meant permanence. It meant grief and memory and stubborn love. Seeing it on Kayla's hand, flashing under bright church lights, surrounded by giggles and centerpieces, felt like watching someone use your mother's voice to sing karaoke. Eventually, I picked up my phone. No texts, no voicemail, just missed calls. I dialed Nora again. She answered on the 3rd ring, breathless like she'd jogged to the phone. "Hey," she said, too chipper. "Where's the box, Nora?" Silence. "You had no right. Hold on. Don't be dramatic," she said, like we were talking about some misplaced gift bag. "It's not a crime, Mark. Mom would have wanted—" "No," I cut her off. "Don't finish that sentence. You don't get to decide what she would have wanted." There was a beat of quiet on her end. "I was trying to help," she finally said. "You gave Kayla Mom's wedding ring without telling me? She asked for something meaningful, something personal, and you were just sitting on it, like it was too sacred to use." "Because it was," I snapped. "Because I wasn't ready to turn it into a prop at a rehearsal dinner." She exhaled, and I heard her voice drop a little. "Look, it's just a piece of jewelry, Mark." "No, it's not." She went quiet again. I heard a drawer shut in the background. "You're getting married tomorrow," she said. "Can you try not to blow it up over a ring?" But it wasn't just the ring. It was the way Kayla wore it without asking, without checking if I was okay with it, without even knowing what it meant. And it was the way Nora handed it over, as if I couldn't be trusted with my own grief. I hung up. I didn't trust myself not to say something I couldn't walk back. By noon, I'd shaved, gotten dressed, and left the apartment. But I didn't drive to the church. I drove to the cemetery. It wasn't planned. I just found myself turning toward that familiar gate, the one with the chipped paint and the wrought iron clank. The leaves had started to pile up along the path. Her name was still crisp on the headstone: Eileen Hunter, beloved mother, loyal friend. No mention of wife. Dad had passed before they could add it. I sat cross-legged by the grave, suit pants pressed into the damp grass. "Hey, Mom," I said, like I always did. "I saw the ring." The wind kicked up. Leaves rustled behind me. They used it, without asking, and I'm supposed to smile about it tomorrow. I paused, swallowing. I don't know if I'm marrying someone who gets me, or someone who just borrows things and tells herself it's fine. A crow landed on the fence post nearby. I half smiled. You'd probably tell me to breathe, make a list, call Aunt Linda, but you're not here. That part still stung, especially now. I stayed until my phone buzzed again. Eric. 12:43 p.m. Eric. Dude, everyone's looking for you. You okay? Eric. Kayla's freaking out, wants to run through the vows again. Eric. Please tell me you're not bailing. I stared at the screen. Typed, deleted, typed again. 12:51 p.m. Me. Be there soon. But I wasn't going straight there. I made one more stop. Nora's. This time she was home. Still in sweatpants, no makeup, hair tied up. You look like crap, she said as she opened the door. You look like someone who went through my things, Auto, I replied. Her face stiffened. Come in. Her apartment was warmer than I remembered, smelled like vanilla and dust. The box was on her coffee table, the felt one, my mom's. You want it back? She asked, sitting down. No, I said. I want to understand. Understand what? Why you thought it was okay to override me, to hand off something sacred like it was a hairpin. Nora looked tired now, like the argument had already played out in her head. You were stuck, Mark, she said. You keep her things like they're relics. No one can touch them, not even you. I thought maybe this would help. Help who? You, she said. Both of you. I shook my head. You didn't ask. You just decided. Nora didn't answer. She looked at the box, then back at me. I'll talk to her, she said, but don't cancel the wedding over a damn ring. I didn't reply, because part of me wasn't sure that was off the table anymore. I left with the box. Kayla called 3 times on the drive over. I let them go to voicemail. By the time I got to the church, it was a frenzy of florists, decorators, and last-minute panic. Kayla saw me from across the vestibule and rushed over. Mark, where have you been? I looked at her hand, the ring still on it, a gold ghost on the wrong finger. I need to talk to you, I said, in front of everyone, in the side room. She hesitated, then nodded. We stepped into the chapel library, a small room with hymnals, old Bibles, and a table with fake ivy. I closed the door, held out the felt box. This is where the ring belongs. She frowned. Mark, I thought... You didn't ask me, I said quietly. You didn't know what this meant. I just thought it was symbolic, a way to honor your mom. It wasn't yours to decide. Kayla's face fell. Her voice came out small. I didn't mean to hurt you. I know, I said, but you still did. She looked at the box, then slowly removed the ring, slipped it inside, closed the lid. For a moment, we just stood there. Then I said it. I don't think we should go through with it tomorrow. Her face didn't change at first. Then her lip trembled. You're calling off the wedding. I'm asking for a pause, for a conversation, for honesty. Mark, we need to talk, I said, about more than this ring. I didn't expect her to cry, but she did, quietly, one hand covering her mouth, and I hated myself for how relieved I felt. I didn't leave the church right away. After Kayla walked out of that small library room, red-eyed and shaking, but trying to keep her posture in front of the decorators, I sat down in one of the faded wingback chairs and listened to the muted shuffle of wedding prep echoing through the walls. The rehearsal had unraveled, and no one quite knew what to do. Nora texted me once. 3:08 p.m. Nora, are you okay? I didn't answer. Instead, I stared at the ring box in my lap. I wasn't angry anymore, not like I had been the day before. What I felt now was something different, a strange mix of distance and clarity, like someone had wiped down the mirror, and I could finally see the thing I'd been pretending not to. The wedding was off. I hadn't said the words outright, but I knew it. The silence between Kayla and me after that conversation didn't feel like a pause. It felt like the edge of something permanent. And somehow, instead of panic, I felt the first clean breath I'd taken in weeks. Eventually, I stood up, tucked the ring box into my coat pocket, and walked through the side door into the parking lot. The sun had started to set behind the chapel roof, casting long shadows across the gravel. Fall light always had this way of making everything look nostalgic, like a scene you weren't sure if you remembered or just imagined. I lingered by my car. I didn't want to go home, and I sure as hell wasn't going to face all the people texting me like it was just cold feet. So I drove. No destination, no playlist, just the hum of tires and the occasional vibration from my phone that I ignored until it stopped. I ended up at the pier. Not a glamorous one, just the little walking dock at Miller's Lake, the one my dad used to take me to when I was a kid. Back then, we'd fish, drink warm Coke, and sit in silence while he chain smoked and pretended to care about my science projects. Later, after he died, Mom and I would come out here with sandwiches from Sal's Deli and sit in the car with the windows down. The lake was empty now. A few ducks, some distant traffic, leaves collecting at the edge. I parked, left the keys in the ignition, and walked to the end of the dock. The wind off the water stung my face a little. I sat down, pulled out the ring box, and opened it again. Still there. Still hers. Still not Kayla's. And that was the problem, wasn't it? I didn't know Kayla the way I thought I did. Or maybe I'd stopped paying attention. The woman I was about to marry didn't just take something from me. She believed it was hers to take. That she could inherit memory by proxy. That grief could be romanticized into symbolism. I looked at the ring, small and worn and quiet. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I talked to my mom out loud. You'd tell me to take a walk, wouldn't you? Clear my head, stop being dramatic. The wind answered with a gust that made me chuckle. But you'd also be pissed. You always said your wedding ring was a promise, not a prop. The ducks clattered, spooked by a branch falling nearby. I think I've been building a life around someone who doesn't see those lines the way I do, and I can't blame her for everything. I was the one who kept letting it slide. That part was hard to admit. I let a lot slide. When she teased me for not wanting to post about our relationship online. When she insisted on white roses instead of Mom's favorite yellow ones for the bouquet. When she told me to lighten up about Nora's speech for the rehearsal dinner, even though I knew it was full of private stuff I hadn't agreed to share. I'd folded, every time, telling myself I was just being accommodating. But what I'd really been doing was erasing myself, piece by piece. I sat there until the sky turned indigo. Then I made the call. Not to Nora, not to Kayla, to Aunt Linda. She picked up on the second ring. Mark? Her voice was warm, surprised. Honey, it's late. Everything okay? Hey, Aunt Linda, can I ask you something kind of weird? Of course. Do you remember where Mom got her ring? A pause, then a soft sigh. Oh, baby, your father had it made. Custom. Back when he was working that double shift at the plant. Took him 4 months to save for it. I closed my eyes. She wore it until the end, didn't she? She sure did. Told me once it was the only thing that made her feel married after your dad passed. I let that sit for a moment. Why do you ask? Linda said, her voice more cautious now. I hesitated, then told her everything. Well, almost everything. I spared her the details about the fight, the rehearsal unraveling, the silent exits. But I told her about the ring, about Nora, about how I'd been sitting on the dock for 2 hours and didn't know what I was supposed to do now. There was a long pause. Then she said, Do you want my honest opinion? Please. I think you know exactly what you're supposed to do. You're just scared it's going to make things harder. I didn't reply. She filled the silence for me. Marriage isn't about absorbing someone's history and wearing it like a costume. It's about building something new together, from scratch, not from borrowed grief. That landed hard. Thanks, I said quietly. Any time, sweetheart. Come by Sunday. I'll make that apple cobbler your mom used to burn. I smiled. When I got home, the apartment felt like someone else's place, the seating chart still taped to the fridge, the wax-sealed invitation samples still sitting in a basket, the box of leftover favors, tiny candles with our initials on them, K+M. I poured a glass of water, sat on the couch, and stared at nothing for a while. Then the door opened. Kayla stood there, keys in hand, hair messy from the wind, mascara smeared. Her voice was low. Are we okay? I didn't answer right away. She sat down across from me, but didn't touch me. That was new. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said again. But I did. I know that now. I looked at her. Really looked. She was scared, but she also wasn't asking to be forgiven. Not yet. I need to know something, I said, and I need the truth. Okay? Did you ask Nora for the ring, or did she offer it? She hesitated. Then, I asked. That stung. More than I expected. Why? She shifted, picked at her sleeve. I thought it would connect us, to your family, to your mom. You didn't ask me. I thought if I did, you'd say no. I set the ring box on the coffee table between us. Then you knew it was wrong. Kayla stared at the box. I think I was afraid, she said, that you'd always keep that part of your life separate, that I'd never really be let in. You can't force your way into someone's past, I said, not by wearing it. We sat in silence, a deep, wide silence. She wiped her eyes. I don't think we should get married, she whispered. I didn't disagree. And for the first time in days, we understood each other. We didn't talk much after that. No shouting, no accusations, just two people sitting in a living room they used to share, quietly acknowledging that they'd built a future on a shaky foundation, and now the cracks were showing. Kayla packed a bag that night. Not everything, just enough to say, I know this is real. A few dresses, her toothbrush, the chargers. She left the spare key on the counter next to the ring box. I'll stay at Rachel's for now, she said, not quite looking at me. I nodded. There was no scene, no dramatic exit. She closed the door softly behind her, like she didn't want to wake a sleeping house that no longer existed. The silence afterward was its own kind of loud. I sat on the couch until my legs went numb, scrolling through old photos on my phone. Not wedding stuff, not couple selfies, just old shots of Mom's garden, Dad's truck, Nora in a Halloween costume from middle school, a blurry photo of the lake dock taken during a winter sunset. All the parts of me I hadn't really shared with Kayla. Maybe because I didn't know how. Maybe because I was afraid she wouldn't get it. Maybe because deep down, I knew she wouldn't want to. The next morning, I woke to a phone call from the church. Voicemail. 9:12 a.m. Pastor Greg. Hi, Mark. I heard from Kayla this morning. I'm sorry to hear about the cancellation, but I understand. Just let us know what you'd like to do with the deposit and the decorations. We'll hold everything until we hear back. Take care of yourself. I texted back a quick thank you. Then I sat on the edge of the bed and waited for the guilt to hit. It didn't. Instead, I felt something else. Lighter. Like I had stopped carrying a story that didn't belong to me. I called Eric next. He picked up immediately. Jesus, man, where have you been? Are you okay? What happened? I'm okay, I said, wedding's off. Silence. Then, yeah, I figured when Kayla didn't show up to do the flower run this morning. She didn't tell you? Nope. Just said there was a change in plans. You sure you're okay? I think so. Eric exhaled. Well, that's something. I hesitated, then asked, Did you know about the ring? He paused. Honestly? Yeah. I saw it at the rehearsal. Didn't think much of it at the time. Figured maybe you'd given it to her off the record. I didn't. Damn, he said. That explains a lot. I feel like I missed something, I said. Or maybe I just ignored it. Eric was quiet for a second, then said something I didn't expect. You were always the steady one, Mark. But steady can become silent real fast. People start filling in your blanks for you. That landed harder than I wanted it to. After we hung up, I cleaned the apartment. Really cleaned. Not the kind of clean you do before guests come over, but the kind you do when something's over. Strip the bed, toss the guest soaps, put away the stack of unopened RSVP cards still sitting in the basket. I even took down the vision board Kayla had taped up on the back of the closet door. Honeymoon brochures, kitchen remodels, dog breed comparisons. I boxed everything gently, like I was handling something fragile that had already cracked. That afternoon, Nora came by. I didn't invite her. She texted first, then just showed up, holding a grocery bag with 2 cartons of takeout and a 6-pack of that fancy ginger beer I liked. She looked sheepish. I figured you hadn't eaten, she said. She wasn't wrong. We sat at the kitchen table, eating quietly for a while. She opened the ginger beers. I opened the windows. Then she said it. I was wrong. I didn't say anything. I let her sit with it. I pushed, she went on, because I thought you were stuck. Because I wanted to feel like I was helping, and maybe I wanted to feel closer to Mom, too. You didn't trust me with my own grief, I said. She nodded. I didn't. I exhaled through my nose. Doesn't mean I was handling it well, I admitted. Still, I crossed the line. We sat in the silence that followed. Then she asked, What are you going to do now? I looked at the ring box sitting on the counter. I don't know. Maybe put it back where it was. Maybe do something different. You could give it to someone. Someday. Someday, I said, if they knew what it meant, if I was sure they didn't want it just for the story. She nodded. I miss her too, she said. I know. We sat there until the light changed. Late afternoon always makes the kitchen glow like old film, soft, dusty gold over everything. Before she left, Nora gave me a hug I didn't know I needed. She smelled like cinnamon gum and the old laundry soap Mom used to swear by. After she was gone, I opened the ring box one last time. Not to cry, not to wallow, just to look. The gold was still warm in color, still etched with time. But for the first time, it didn't feel like a burden. It felt like a line I could trace forward if I ever chose to. That night, I sat down at my desk with a blank piece of paper. Not a journal, not a letter, just something to start with. And I wrote, I thought I knew what permanence meant. The paper stayed blank for a long time after that first sentence. I sat at the desk, pen resting against my thumb, staring at those 7 words. I thought I knew what permanence meant. It wasn't some poetic epiphany. It was just the truth. I'd spent the last year trying to cement a future with someone who saw permanence as presentation, rings, photos, registries. And I couldn't blame her entirely. I'd let her believe I was okay with that, smiled when I wasn't, nodded when I should have spoken. Maybe permanence wasn't about keeping everything the same. Maybe it was about choosing who you let reshape you, slowly, quietly, with care. And Kayla, for all her good traits, had never once asked if I wanted to be reshaped. A week passed, then 2. The calls stopped after day 3. First Kayla's parents, then a couple of her friends. Rachel sent a polite, distant text that said, "Hope you're finding peace in your decision." It read like it had been copied from a sympathy card. Eric dropped by once. We watched a game in silence and didn't talk about the wedding. He left 2 beers in my fridge that I still haven't touched. Nora came around a little more often, less out of guilt, more because we were both quietly nursing the same wound. The one where the world moves on without your parents, and you keep trying to hold the center without admitting you're still grieving. We didn't talk about Kayla anymore. That part had already closed. One afternoon, about a month after the canceled wedding, I got a letter, a real one, in an envelope. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Kayla. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. She could have texted. She could have emailed. She could have sent nothing at all. But instead, she sent 3 pages. The first line stopped me. I never knew how quiet your grief was until I tried to wear it. It went on from there. An apology, yes, but more than that, it was an admission of pressure, of expectation, of trying to fit herself into something that didn't belong to her. She wrote about the wedding like it was a runaway train she never learned how to slow down. About Nora's offer. About the pressure she put on herself to be the wife your mother would have approved of. She ended it like this: "You gave me a clean exit, Mark. Most people would have gone up in flames. You just let the truth sit between us until we both saw it. That's more grace than I deserved. Thank you." I folded the letter and placed it in the same drawer where the ring had been all those months. That drawer was empty now, except for the letter and a small envelope with the dry flower stem from Mom's memorial. I didn't need to keep the ring in there anymore. I had a new plan. The following Sunday, I visited Aunt Linda. She'd made good on her cobbler promise. Burnt edges, just like Mom's. We sat on her porch in quiet, watching the streetlights flicker on one by one. "I'm thinking about selling the apartment," I said. Linda raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" "Yeah," I said. "It's filled with half-finished futures. I want a clean space, something I can make my own." She nodded slowly, wiping her hands on her apron. "Takes guts." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I'm just tired of carrying weight that isn't mine." Before I left, I handed her the ring box. Her fingers brushed the lid like it was holy. "I don't know what to do with it yet," I said, "but I know it doesn't belong in a drawer anymore." She didn't try to talk me out of it. She just nodded. "I'll keep it safe," she said, "until you're ready." That night, I drove back to the lake. Same dock, same chill. But something felt different. I sat down at the end, this time, with a notebook instead of a ring, and I started writing. Permanence is a choice. Not an object, not a ring, not a photo on a wall. It's what stays when everything else changes. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for the stars to come out. Long enough for the quiet to settle back into me like it belonged. I didn't need a wedding to feel whole. I didn't need a partner who wore my grief like jewelry. I just needed this: a still place, a page, a name I could say out loud without wincing. Mom. And someday, maybe, a new beginning. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.